Hey everybody, how you doing? This is about to be a really fun video. Today we are talking about 308 Winchester versus 30-06 Springfield. But first, before we get into that, let me show you something real quick. Oh, this is my big old boy. This is my boy Buddy. He is a bagel. He is a good boy. He's 10 months old. Buddy, tell him, say hi. But he's a bagel. Like I said, his mommy was a basset hound, or is a basset hound, and his daddy is a beagle. Have you ever seen a dog like that? This is my boy Buddy. He's a pretty boy, huh? But yeah, Buddy's not normally in here with me in the office, but his mommy's gone, so he's in here laying on my feet. But anyways, he's a pretty boy. I love my puppy dog. But anyways, like I was saying, today we're talking about 308 Winchester versus 30-06 Springfield. We're going to be talking about bullet droppages at different ranges. We're going to be talking about energy at different ranges. We are going to dispel some FUD lore that's out there. People giving you wrong information. Let's just lead right away with that. I put up a poll on YouTube just an hour ago. It's already got 1,300 votes. I'm going to take a screenshot of this and put it in the video. 1,300 votes. I asked you guys. I said, please vote. I'm going to use the results in a video. This video. Loaded with the same projectile, which do you think has the most drop? And then I said, drops the fastest / requires more holdover. 308 versus 30-06. The answer, which has the most drop, is a 308 Winchester. 26% of you guys, so 26% of 1,300 people said that the 30-06 has more drop. You, my friend, would be wrong. 308 has more drop. 308 drops faster. Loaded with the same projectile. They're both 30 cal. Same projectile. 308 is going to drop faster. We're about to get into some nerdy numbers, and we're going to use some examples of some Remington factory loads. You may know I am a big fan of the Remington bullets. We're fixing to go chase some deers all next month with some core-lock and some core-lock tipped, and I am super excited. But all that being said, 25% of the population has the 308 versus 30-06 data completely wrong in their brains. There might be some error there, 1 or 2% where you accidentally click the wrong thing, but 25% of the people watching this video think that a 308 drops faster than a 30-06. And that's wrong. So that's one of the purposes that we're making this video. I got some data. We're going to get right into it. Let me pop something up on the screen here. So, I took a bunch of Remington factory loadings. Let me count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Did a data set of 12 factory loadings from Remington. You can see here, I got the BC. That's the ballistic coefficient on the G1 scale. And then the muzzle velocity. You can see there on the color scheme. Red means low BC, which we'll say bad. And then green means higher BC, or better. Same thing with muzzle velocity. Red means slow, green means fast. So, let's talk about loadings from Remington. So, I've got some examples here in front of me to show you. And keep this in mind through the rest of the video. Where you see SP, that's a soft point. Something like this right here. The core-locked soft point. This is a 30-06, 180 grain. Then they load the core-locked PSPs. That stands for pointed soft point. I bet you half the people watching this video had no idea that was a thing, and you probably thought these two boxes were the same, but they're not. There's a soft point from Remington core-locked. Then there's a PSP. That's a pointed soft point. And then these came out last year, the core-lock tipped, which I've got tons of videos on pretty much everything core-locked and core-lock tip related. We're going to be doing tons more, but hey, I've taken deer with these core locks, and I've taken deer with the tips. They both smoke deers. We got videos on the channel. But keep that in mind. Now, let me make my face real small, and I'm going to pop up a big picture, bunch of colors. So what I did here, I took 12 different loadings, 6 308s, 6 30-06, and let's just talk about drop out to 600 yards. So everything's sighted in at 100. That's why the 100 column all says 0. Everything's sighted in at 100. And then we have 50-yard steps all the way out to 600. So we're talking about deer hunting, really hunting anything. Really, nobody has much business taking shots at deers past 600 yards. I'd say 1% of the population should be doing that. You know, people that have practiced and have proven that they're super accurate with their rig. But yeah, so if you do past that and you do a good job at it, more power to you. But I'm just saying, across the board, generally speaking, most people aren't flinging bullets past 600 after deers. And this is kind of a hunting topic here. I got videos taking 308 to 1,000 if you want to see that. Go check out those videos. But we're talking about hunting bullets and hunting data here. So let's get into the drop. So actually, before we get into that, let's just look at the loadings. You can see on here where I've got CLPSP, that stands for core locked pointed soft points, like I just told you. We've got those 308s in core locked 150 grainers, soft point 180 grainers. So look real quick. The soft points across the board have a low BC. If you look at the BC column, BC of 248, that's the same 180 grain projectile in the 308 near the top. And then the 30-06 on the bottom half. There are 3 soft points on this. There's 180 grain for 308 and 30-06, and then there's the 220 grain 30-06. Anytime I say which is better, 308 or 30-06, all the old fuds say, I like 30-06 better because I can load a 220 grain. Or you can buy a 220 grain core locked. We're about to show you here in a little bit. I'm about to show you where that I like 220 grain because it's got more energy. That argument kind of is no good, and I'm going to show you why. But I'm rambling too much. Let's talk about drop and get to it. So there's a lot of data on here. If you go to each column, so for example, let's go to 200 yards. The darkest green is the least amount of drop. The brightest red is the worst drop. So if you go to 200 yards, out of all these loadings, I guarantee you would not guess which one had the least amount of drop. You'd probably think, I don't know. But the winner on 308 versus 30-06, the one with the least amount of drop, is the 150 grain core lock tipped. That's that CLT there. At 200 yards, out of these 12 different Remington factory loadings, the one with the least amount of drop is the 150 grain core lock tipped. It's got a BC of 0.415. Actually, if you go across the board, that one has the least amount of drop at every distance. So all the way out to 600 yards, that 30-06 150 grain core lock tipped drops 84 inches at 600 yards. Really, the 30-06 core lock tipped is the winner. You talk about all 12 of these, which ones are the best 3 when it comes to dropping the least amount? It's all 30-06, and it's all 3 of the core lock tips, 150, 165, and 180. If you go up to the 308 core lock tipped 150 grainer, it drops 90 inches, which is right in the ballpark of those 30-06s in the core lock tip. It actually takes 3rd place, and then the heaviest 180 grain 30-06 takes 4th place. But all that being said, 30-06 drops less than 308. And that's a fact, Jack. So maybe somewhere in our minds we think, oh, the military uses 308 sometimes as a sniper round and all this stuff. But with the same projectile, 308 drops faster than 30-06. So, in theory, if you asked me today, hey, we're going out to 600 yards at the range, which one are you picking because it's going to be less holdover or less dial on your scope? 30-06 has less drop. Now you can pause this video and look at this chart and look up all these loadings. But like I said, did all this drop data. 308 drops faster than 30-06. That 220 grain has that bright red across the board. It drops significantly more than everything else. Not only is it the heaviest, it's the slowest, and it has almost the worst ballistic coefficient. So keep that in mind. That 220 grain, it drops really fast. Now, does drop matter when you're hunting at 50 yards, 100 yards, even out to 200 yards? Not so much. But we talked about the drop. Again, I could talk about this all day and we could break them out one by one, but that would be a 2-hour-long video and y'all don't want to watch that. But freeze this, look up the ammo that you might have on your shelf, like me. I got some sitting right here. There's some 30-06 Core-Lokt SPs. These were actually one of the worst ones of the whole video when it comes to drop. But, most people aren't taking deers at 600 yards. They're taking deers at 100 yards, maybe 200 yards. Anyways, there's the drop conversation. I asked the question, what drops faster? 25% of you guys got it wrong on a data set of over 1,000 people. I got a deer fur on my chair here, and my dog, Buddy, keeps wanting to chew on it. Don't chew on my deer, buddy. Okay, so we talked about drop, right? 30-06 is better, meaning it drops less. Pretty much across the board. That's a fact. And also, something you can also take to the bank, a lower ballistic coefficient translates to more drop. Higher ballistic coefficient, less drop. Anyways, okay, now we know the drop. We talked about the drop, probably rambled on about drop too long. Let's talk about energy. So, same thing. Let me pop up a picture right here. Exact same loadings. In the 7mm versus mag versus 300 Win Mag, I did a line chart so we could break it out and look at the curves. I did that with this data. It's too much data and you can't tell too much. It's kind of a mess. It'll hurt your eyes squinting at it. So instead, just like the drop, I did this energy picture. Same loadings, like I said. Same distances, broken out every 50 yards. But now instead of drop, we're talking about energy. So the darkest red means the lowest energy out of that entire column. So if you take, for example, at 0 yards, that's our energy at the muzzle. So the worst one is the 308 Core-Lokt pointed soft point, 150 grain. Now, 2649 energy, yeah, okay, that's good. It's red. That doesn't mean it's bad. That just means it's the lowest in our comparison here in this video today. So, and then you look at what's the second worst. 308 Core-Lokt tipped, 150 grain and 165 grain. So the three lowest energies are 308. Actually, all 6 of the lowest energies out of the 12 are 308. So muzzle energy, 30-06. It's got more energy across the board at the muzzle. Then let's go out to 100 yards. And the numbers still pretty much stay the same. Everything is kind of staying in its own lane. Before we move on from energy at the muzzle, the worst we talked about were 308s. What's got the most energy? You know, I said, people are always telling me they love 30-06 for those 220 grainers. They got more energy. Where does that 220 grain fall at muzzle energy? It's in the middle. There's like 3 or 4 loadings that have more muzzle energy than those 220 grainers. So let's follow that down the line a little bit. Let's go to 200 yards. Now which one has the worst? Now it has shifted from the 150 grain pointed soft point core lock in 308 to the 180 grain soft point. At 200 yards, it has 1,530 foot-pounds of energy. Still plenty of energy, right? But what's the second and third worst? Now the second and third worst are some 30-06. The soft points in 30-06 core locked. So the soft point 180 grain at 200 yards has energy of 1638, and the 220 grainer has 1710 foot-pounds of energy. So all you guys that are always telling me you love 30-06 because you like those core lock 220 grainers, that argument makes no sense, because out of all of these loadings, that actually has some of the worst energy. At muzzle energy, it's in the middle. 100 yards, it's at the bottom of the chart. 200 yards, it's way at the bottom of the chart. So everybody who tells me they love those 220s, no, because the energy, it's actually one of the worst, one of the lowest energies on this whole comparison. Hate to break it to you. You can see there's a pretty red line there with those 220 grainers. Really across the board, that 220 grainer has the third worst energy once you pass, it looks like 100 yards. So that energy of that 220 grain having more energy than everything else, no. But it is in the top half of the energy if you're at 50 yards. So at 50 yards is the only time that you can even say that it has decent energy of that 220 grainer. But if I had $1 for every time somebody said, I like the 30-06 because I can load those 220s, not so much. Now, there may be a caveat there. If you're loading those cases up with like max powder and doing the absolute crazy max with your hand loads or something, then I could see that being a caveat. But we're talking about factory Remington loadings. Those 220s have a low BC, which means they carry their energy not as far. They lose energy faster. But, hey, that's what it is. Also, we're going to point out the winner. So the winner by far, dark green, which means the best, is the 30-06 core lock tipped 180 grainer, which I think I actually have those. Yep, right here. So out of all 12 of those factory loadings, these right here take the cake. Come on, man, focus. The core lock tipped 180 grain 30-06. This stuff, woo-wee. I'm pretty sure I've done a video on this. Anyways, high BC in this group, comparatively, it's got a high BC. Even all the way out at 600 yards, that round, our winner by far, still has 1,200 foot-pounds of energy. 3 times the energy of some of the other loadings on our list here for comparison. But, hey, real quick video. Probably not quick at this point, but you guys can go back and freeze it and look at the drops in inches on the beginning of the video, or you guys can freeze this right here where we talk about energy with these 12 different factory Remington loadings. But really, at the end of the day, everybody I talk to takes deer inside 200 yards. And you could pick up any single one of these loadings and take your deer inside 200 yards. And there's minimal variance. The drop within 3 inches and the energy within 200. foot-pounds of energy, which at those distances is negligible. So really, like I said, I hear stuff from you guys all the time. There's lots of bad info out there. But if you want to freeze this, you can check out the drop, the energy, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, 30-06 has the most energy and the least amount of drop. That's a general statement. You know, there's all kind of variables in there. Me personally, I have taken deer with 308 and 30-06. Let's relive those stories super fast. I took a monster fallow deer with a 308. Check this footage out. Hey, that huge fallow deer, he probably went 15 yards after the shot, and then that was it. Then I took a huge, probably 3 times the size of that fallow deer, a huge red stag with the 30-06. Let me show you that footage right here.
Hit him. He's gonna fall down. He's gonna fall down. I want him still.
He went down.
Yes!
Yeah, he would be the biggest deer on the wall by far. And that guy went, maybe 40 yards after the shot. Big old red stag. Hey, 308 and 30-06 are great. My argument is shot placement matters a whole lot more than cartridge or caliber. If you can't put it right where you're aiming, or right where you want it to hit, then the whole argument doesn't matter. But me personally, I got a lot of experience with both. They'll both take a deer. Those are a couple that we actually have on footage. Appreciate y'all watching. Like I said, comment down below which one's your favorite and why. I love hearing y'all's stories. Tell me a story about a deer that you took with 308 or 30-06. I love reading all of them. Appreciate y'all. We'll catch you on the next one. Woohoo!
Load it up and get it on as soon as you can. 30-06, 10 mil, 50 cal. It don't make a difference, man. We like to shoot and make a little boom boom. If you like